Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. Everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous. From presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I'm proud to introduce you to Lee Martin, an architectural expert and consultant who attributes his success to hard work and perseverance. Lee, it's a pleasure to meet you. And as I say those words, hard work and perseverance, that should be the motto of pretty much every professional. Wouldn't you agree?
I think to succeed, it's mandatory, yes.
Yes, sir. I mean, and looking through your resume, I see a diverse range of experience. You have been a playground safety inspector, an architect, and a licensed pilot. What motivates you to pursue such divergent interests? I call you my Renaissance man.
Well, I think a lot of architects would fall in that category, Star. And I think it seems very logical and linear to me, although it might not to somebody else. I started as a construction laborer in high school and college. And when I was getting ready to get out of the military, I said to my wife, I wonder what I'll study. And she laughed and said, look at our dining room. We had rolls of drawings leaning against the wall, and there was a drafting board set up on the dining room table. And she said, why would you go into anything but architecture? She
Wow.
thought that was a no-brainer. So turned out that's what happened. So from there, I progressed to the point where I got licensed as an architect and went into government for a variety of reasons having to do with the economy and other things. Some of the certifications that have supported the architectural practice have been the playground safety inspector
Mm-hmm.
and the slip testing certification and the snow and ice contractor certification. So if architecture is the stem, all of these other things are branches that go off one way or the other that help support that main practice.
And what you've done with these, as I say, divergent interests, is actually formed a fully integrated career as a consultant. So tell me, as a consultant, what services do you get to provide your clients?
Well, at the present time, there are two sides of the company. One is the building services side that offers traditional design and construction services along with capital improvement program management for owners that don't have a staff or would like outside professional advice. There are services of computerized asset management that give people information and predict when building costs are going to occur so that they can save ahead of time, things of that nature, which would be more the traditional practice of architecture or construction administration. And then the forensic side of the building might have more appeal to an attorney such as yourself, where we provide forensic litigation services to attorneys and insurance adjusters. In my case, my areas are construction defects, delays, architectural professional liability, and personal injury that
Mm-hmm.
involves some aspect of a building where uh, somebody's injured on a building or visiting a building inside or outside and ascribe the cause of that injury to some design or construction flaw. So
Yes.
those are the two sides of the building. And I would say we go back and forth 50-50 pretty much all the time.
Wow, that gives you really the ability to do kind of, or I should say, it gives you the ability to take on the kinds of projects that really interest you. And I noticed you said that a career highlight for you was that you were one of the top billers in your architectural practice group for a number of years. As a businesswoman, having a partner who is a top biller is at the top of my list. So why would you say that this holds the distinction?
It was a distinction that I cherished because when I started out in the forensic architecture field, I had little background and I relied on other people to a great extent.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of time, I acquired skill. I acquired repeat clients, so I wasn't so dependent upon marketing staff. And when I got to the point of being a top biller, it was affirmation to me that I had, paid back what people were kind enough to give me, and then I obviously had the obligation to do the same thing. But then I think being the top biller is again affirmation of hard work and perseverance that finally pays off.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the projects that you've worked on. What are you particularly proud of?
Well, just very quickly, I started out doing a multitude of things, banks and savings and loans, industrial buildings, airplane hangars. Um, when the economy was bad in the 90s, I wound up working for a design build company that did modular design and construction. And we built modular, that is shop manufactured, homeless shelters, medical facilities, and detention facilities, and sold those on a lease basis throughout the Midwest as far away as California. We put a homeless shelter right across the street from the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C. at one point in time. And one of the things that I look at as a highlight of my career was doing a neonatal exam trailer for San Rafael Hospital in New Haven, Connecticut, because the doctors came to the company and spoke to the CEO and said, we have a problem where we're dealing with low birth weight babies. They're born drug addicted with various problems. The mothers don't get good prenatal care. And if we could put a facility in the community, we think we could have an impact on that problem. So they got a grant. We did, I think, 2 trailers ultimately for the hospital. And they were able to show a statistical reduction in the number of low birth weight babies in that community as a result of bringing those services to the community rather than young ladies having to have 2 bus transfer trips to get to their facility. So that was one of the nicer things that happened in my career, I think. One of the other projects that was rewarding and interesting was an apartment fire, which took the whole building, and our subcontractor was being blamed for the flashover. And through literally sifting through ashes and looking at photographs and doing evaluation, I was able to show that he did exactly what the contract documents required him to do. And in fact, the general contractor was the one who had done inadequate and improper draft stopping and fire blocking. So our guy was able to cross-file against both of those other parties and wind up coming out intact, where he thought his business was doomed. And he was very upset. So he went from being despondent
to being elated,
taking a hit, but at least it wasn't nearly what he thought. Yeah, he was actually pretty happy at the end to write the check that he had to write, because it was so much less than he thought it would be. Had occasion to do a case in a women's reformatory here in Central Ohio, where some kind of noxious gas came through the HVAC system and sent a dozen or so people to the hospital. And some of those people were suing the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections and the state of Ohio, who was, strange to me, denying all responsibility for anything. So I was able to show how something that was outside the building or something that was in another part of the building could be brought to those locations and in fact affect those people the way it did. So, that case had a positive outcome for the people involved.
That's wonderful. A number of your projects have real community impact. So it begs the question, what do you actually get to do in the community that's outside of work?
My wife and I are involved in a lot of organizations and charities. We're involved in some of them, even though our 2 sons are grown. We maintain contact with some of them, like the athletic groups in the community. There's an organization called Charity Newsies that clothes needy children of school age. I used to be a newspaper carrier, and that's how I became involved with Charity Newsies years ago. So now I'm one of the people that help raise money for that organization. I got back problems and leg problems and all of those things. So I don't stand on the corner on Newsy Day and sell the newspaper all day. But there are younger people, fortunately, that do that. There's a group, again, I'm not actively involved because I don't have a background in social work, but Nationwide Children's Hospital has a family center for safety and healing, which deals with people escaping abusive situations. And we've known people that have been helped by that organization, wives and children. So we contribute to that. One of the organizations I get involved with that has a master's in trial in Ohio every year is BOTA, the American Board of Trial Advocates, which is composed, it's members join by invitation only. It's not something you can join without having to be asked. And I'm not a lawyer, so I contribute to the foundation, but it's plaintiff and defense bar, which is nice. And they have the masters in trial. And the goal of the organization and the foundation is to make trial available to anybody in this country, because it gets harder and harder for people without substantial means to take something to trial. So those are some of the things that we get involved with. I maintain contact with my high school, even though I've been gone there for more than a few years. And the composition of that neighborhood has changed dramatically. So we help sponsor events, participate in activities. Some of the classes have a scholarship fund. There's a lunch forgiveness program. There are just all kinds of ways to participate and give back.
That's really, really great. And you mentioned a lot of this work you do with your life partner, your wife. So, of course, I have to ask, what role, if any, has your family played in your success?
Well, probably more than I even realized. My parents divorced when I was young, and my mother and I were alone for a number of years and had some tough times. She was a very disciplined person, and she instilled, Christian values and maybe the ethic of hard work and whatnot. My wife and my in-laws helped because they showed that love conquers everything. And, when I was, living with my mother and stepfather, I wasn't a particularly diligent or obedient son. So I found out that love can bring about positive change in an instant. And they saved me in that regard. They also saved me when I came back from Vietnam, when I wasn't a particularly nice person to be around.
That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It sounds like a family that's a foundation built on love and support.
I've been very blessed.
Yes, indeed. What's the one thing you'd like the viewer of this video feature to walk away with?
Architecture affects people's lives in a variety of ways. And you mentioned, for example, the playground safety inspector certification I got. And we did an awful lot of personal injury claims on little playgrounds. And then one day got the call to go look at the tower slide at Maggie Daley Park in Chicago, Illinois.
Yes, indeed.
That had sent at that point more than 70 people to the hospital, and the city of Chicago was refusing to believe they had a problem. So that's what I would think somebody might come away with, and possibly the realization, if they had a problem, there are people that they can call that are knowledgeable in all kinds of matters pertaining to buildings and architecture in general.
So Lee, I just have to tell you, it's been fascinating learning about architecture from multiple levels and different perspectives. I think I've always thought of architecture as the physical building, the creation, and I didn't realize that there are so many wonderful layers that go about building an architectural practice that impacts on our society on a regular basis. So I want to say thank you for educating me as well as our viewers on your passion. Thank you again, sir.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to meet you and offer those comments.